I've started checking my boyfriend's phone without his permission because he has been acting differently. I don't like to do it, but I fear the worst because I have been cheated on before. What should I do? I feel like I'm starting to develop trust issues. A situation that causes distrust is when a person says something but then acts in a different way.
Yeah. Welcome to the Rebirthing Self podcast relationship series. My name is John.
And my name is Joana. And on this series, we'll talk about how to transform romantic relationships into a foundation of self-love
and live up to your true potential. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about the swings between love and hate in the relationship and how to break this cycle.
And then how to recreate your current relationship to be truly fulfilling.
Okay, Joana, love and hate. It seems like this is a cycle in relationships. They experience love, they experience anger, hate, frustration, irritation, and then love again, and then the same thing. Why are people experiencing this cycle and how do we break it?
Yes, it's so interesting that we have defined relationships based on this sort of dance. Yeah. We think that this is what relationships are about.
Yeah, it's love. When people think of relationships, immediately is love. Is the little heart. Like, that's the symbol.
Yes.
That's the symbol.
And that's one side of the polarity. And then we have the other side. And I think as we grow up and as we recognize this in relationships, we should have been asking ourselves, like, why are we falling again, over and over again on these patterns?
Not that, we're opening this point. I'm just realizing that if you look at many years ago, like this construct idea of relationships as love is very Disney-ish.
Yeah, it's
right?
very pink. Yeah.
If you look back in history, it hasn't been about love. It has been about community, about cooperation,
depending on the cultures,
yes. Raising children, right? Even the whole point of arranged marriages. Mm-hmm. Like, the consideration wasn't, do they love each other? Although it is important that people enjoy each other's company and connect and so on. But we have constructed in our Western society, especially, and that has propagated throughout other cultures as well, this idea of the love, of finding the love, of meeting the one, and that experience. But is that what relationships should be about? Love, the experience of love? Or should they be based on something else, something more trustworthy?
And here it's also like, what is your definition of love?
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Because these days, our definition of love is no longer the emotional turmoil that comes with it. It's not the excitement and then the disappointment. It's not the wanting and the fear of losing. And that's the definition of love for many people.
Yeah, of relationship.
Of relationships. And it's this constant state of fear of losing what you have, and the constant state of wanting that to experience the emotional, it's a reaction.
Yeah.
And because you fear to feel the opposite, which is loneliness.
Lonely, yes.
Which is the misunderstood or
yes.
Unloved or people don't like you. So I think it's so that definition of love is very important. And as we're talking, maybe you are also considering, okay, how am I living my relationship? How am I actually loving another person? Is it based on this excitement and wanting to feel this way and that way, and therefore preventing all the other bad feelings? So it's very much about what you feel. And obviously we want to have a relationship where you can be yourself, where you can express yourself, where you can feel safe and feel loved in the sense of being cared for. But it is important to be aware. Be conscious and be aware of I would say, the dangers of love as the emotion.
As the energy.
Exactly, as the energy. And when you feel that energy building up within you, and you think, okay, this is love, like the butterflies in the belly. You are, in a way, creating...
You are possessed.
But you are also creating the other side of the coin, which is the negative
experience,
outflow of that. Because eventually it will burn out. I mean, you cannot be always in a state of positive excitement and positive energy. You will go and you will see the other side, which is when things go wrong, as in...
Also because that point of wanting love and wanting to experience love is actually coming from a point of
lack.
Yes, I'm missing something and I need the other person to fulfill me. And then when that expectation is not met, then that's the justification for why I feel so down, why I feel so sad, why the other is to blame. And then the arguments, and you don't do this, you don't do that, you don't give me attention, you don't all those things that you first should be for yourself. You project onto, you hope and expect that the other is going to be fulfilling all of it.
And you know,
and that's in that you're going to be creating the issue, because you have to first and always love yourself first. And it's not, this loving yourself first is not the point of emotion, is not a point of an experience. Is actually you taking care of yourself, you watching what is going on here, you understanding yourself and pushing for yourself to change.
Respecting yourself.
Respecting, what would be you respecting yourself? Would be you taking good care of yourself, physically, mentally, emotionally.
Honor your life.
Yes, exactly.
And you know, I think one of the goals of choosing this topic, for me, it was to prevent unnecessary suffering that relationships may bring to people.
Yeah.
And everything that you were describing earlier on, that is unnecessary suffering. The way that you put yourself in that position of lacking, of wanting someone to give you something that you're not giving for yourself first, you are creating that, you are sabotaging your own life, your essence, your inner strength. And then when, let's say, someone that you have projected all of this into someone else, and that person leaves your life, you believe that all your strength has dissipated as well.
Yeah.
And that's not true.
Yeah.
But you have put yourself in that position of lacking, and then you cause that suffering. And it is very important that aside with these emotions that we were talking about, that comes also the blame game and the guilt, which is another form of suffering, because again, you are projecting something that you are blaming someone else for something that you are not first standing for your own self. And this is really hard to see when you are within that possession of emotions and feelings, because you think that everything that you're experiencing is real. And here we're saying you think it's real, but actually it's not. And there's a way to step out of it. And we'll be talking about that in today's episode.
And this is actually a point. You mentioned the word game. And it's games that we're playing, that people are playing. It's games of win and lose, of I'm giving you this, so I expect back. I say I love you, you better say I love you back. So it's all these games that people are playing, energetic games. Instead of being supportive and using common sense in terms of what makes a relationship actually functional, and what are principles that you can live by that actually will allow for the relationship, for not only the relationship, but the individuals to actually expand themselves and improve themselves and become better for themselves, and therefore for the relationship and for society.
Yeah. And I think of relationships as that common ground, that platform that allows you to stand, almost like a safe harbor, that you can then deal with your own things in life, whether it's professionally, in other relationships you have.
You can trust the other is going to be there as well to be that support structure when things are more
To deal
difficult,
with
more
life,
challenging.
yeah.
Yeah.
To deal with
To give you
family
perspectives
issues.
that you cannot get there by yourself, or not as quickly.
So and that's the thing, like relationships can be so much more than what they are
Yeah.
currently
Yeah.
defined and designed and lived. And I think we are cutting ourselves short when it comes to relationships, because the potential is so big and so important. Then we hope that this podcast
Now,
also brings that awareness and confidence to people.
now this is for those listening. Now it's important. Again, we go back to the point of it takes two to tango. So if one individual in the relationship understands that these games are not supportive, that this love and hate and irritation and now I give you love and now I expect love and is not supportive, and you want to change and you want to start to work on yourself, but the other is not standing by the same principles of actually changing the dynamic of the relationship to be supportive, and so that both grow, then there's going to be a problem. Like, you cannot convince the other to change and to start to see things differently and to say, hey, okay, this relationship is not working, let's do it this way. The other might be like, what are you talking about?
I didn't sign up for this.
I didn't sign up for that. I want to play these games. I want to be experiencing this energy. I want the drama. I want the love. I want the excitement, and then I want to fight with you. Right? Some people are like that because it's like the mind thrives on this. And they, in a way, it's an addiction. They become addicted to that friction, to that conflict, to that. And it's actually very true that some of the relationships that will stay for the longest are those that are less conflictual. I mean, this might seem common sense, but it's those that things are more how do I say this? Almost as if they're boring, right?
They're very stable.
Yes, it's because there's no big
Friction.
swings
Yeah.
of energy, of excitement, of lows and downs and fighting and arguments, because that is the swings. The arguments come with a positive, and that whole point of what do you call it? Forgiveness sex, or they fight and then they have sex and everything is well again. That's the game. Again, it's the same point. It's like, we're gonna fight, and then have sex and everything is all right, and it feels so good.
And it's such a distraction.
And it's the polarity.
Yeah.
It's.
I think it's a distraction. But you were saying that most relationships, the long-lasting, were like this. I would say it's not like that, actually. I think that a lot of relationships that last
not like this. Yeah, I'm saying it's not like this.
No, but there are relationships that do last very long, even though they are conflictuous, because people actually... because they, in a way, adapted and got used to that discomfort. It's very discomfortable to be in conflict, but once you are in it, you think that's the only way to exist. Yeah. So you get used to that. It's the same as with any abusive relationship. You think that almost that you deserve it, that you cannot get more or something better. But again, we cut ourselves short. We think that we are limited by that. I think.
But sometimes there's other factors that play into why people will stay in the relationship. It could be financial. It could be the fear. Like if there's an abusive relationship, it could be the fear of if I break with him or her. Most of the times it's with him. What is he going to do to me? He's going to beat me up. He's going to beat my child. Whatever.
Yeah, when there's children involved.
So there's other reasons why people will justify. Okay, I better stay in my relationship.
I think we're talking about.
Or I'm getting too old. Who am I going to find? Right?
I think we talk about healthy relationships as we defined in the previous episode, where we talk about that, like what's a healthy relationship. And I think it's here, as we are kind of creating the relationships of the future, here we can actually, again, ask ourselves, what is the relationship that I want to be living in the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years? And then you will realize that this love and hate polarity is so exhausting. You don't need that. Actually, your body does not need it. Like that emotional turmoil, that stress, it actually causes stress and in addition to the suffering that we experience emotionally, but physically, it's almost like as if you are going to an exam every single day, you know, like all your body suffers with that. And so I think this is a great opportunity for people to also stand as that example. And here I think about the youth, like young people that look at older people for advice. Here, older, we are older for them. But, you know, like, I don't know, my nieces, when they have their boyfriends and they want to talk about it, I want to stand as that example where they can see that they can make.
So what is the example? If we're not, if the foundation for the relationship is not the love and the excitement.
Yeah.
So how should the relationship be?
Right.
If the love is not that foundation, the excitement, the energy.
Yeah.
The butterflies here, what should it be?
So I think we can break free from this cycle when we actually have a communication with the other person as to how do we want to recreate our relationship. For those that are within an existing relationship, you actually sit down and write about, okay, the points that we want to create in our lives as part of the relationship. Use the tools around you to actually see this as a project that you are. Well, I mean, we're so good at work where we have projects, that we have timelines and we have goals. We can do the same for a relationship.
Yeah. It's a contract.
It is. It's like, well, marriage is a contract, right? And you have those common goals. And if there's some sort of...
What are the terms and conditions, right?
Yeah. With no expiring date, hopefully.
Death do us part. So, but like the communication is obviously a tool that, I mean, without it, it doesn't work. But I want to go even
before that,
below that.
Yeah.
We should have principles. To me, that's the answer. The love as the energy is not sustainable. You should create principles that you both agree on and you both live by. And that is the foundation for the relationship to actually flourish in ways that, I mean, that we can say is beautiful. Actual beauty, not physical, picturesque
but it
beauty.
Actually works.
Yes, a beauty in the creation that becomes the relationship.
Yeah. And with those principles come also, who are you in the relationship? And what values, and here is values, like principles, do you live for yourself? And earlier we were talking about the things that we project onto a relationship. So if I have the tendency to feel insecure, then I need to be aware of that. And my partner needs to be aware of that. And together we will agree, okay, let's nurture my self-trust. It's obviously my responsibility to do it, but you can support me. We can talk about past relationships that led me to feel this way. And this is almost like it's therapeutic. Relationships can be therapeutic because you have such a close relationship.
That's what I want to get to. They should be therapeutic.
They should be, yeah.
They should be the mirror for you to see yourself, to see your flaws, and to also find the support to actually help you correct yourself.
Rather than hiding those and suppressing those even further.
Yes, and projecting and blaming and expecting the other to fix it, expecting the other to compensate for your shortcomings, for how you feel inferior, for how you feel you're lacking.
So what we're saying is that relationships are a process of self-development.
Exactly.
Where you will identify and you have that safe space to be yourself, to identify what needs to be fixed within you, what are the points that you're not happy about it, and how can you use the relationship in a way to practice the new you, the person that you want to be, the self-trust, the confidence, the self-fulfillment,
the self-responsibility,
the taking care of yourself. And therefore, you are at ease with the other person because each one have their own issues to solve, but together...
And we are solving it.
Yes.
That's the important thing.
That you are solving, yes.
That is one of the principles. We are actually actively pushing for ourselves to sort out our issues.
Yeah.
Individually and supporting the other to do the same.
And then together we can give each other inputs because it kind of takes you to so deeper levels of yourself, like things that you didn't notice, like from your childhood, from your early years, from your upbringing. And if you're not aware of that, you're most likely bringing all of that as a hologram to your relationship. So you're kind of going into those cycles. So this is how I think you can break the cycle, is when you stop the hologram and you realize, okay, I want to have a totally different relationship with this person. And to me, I think that's honoring your life.
Yes. And I think we could talk a little bit about one of the principles that we have, which is part of our agreement, which is the principle of equality and oneness, which means that we are equal and we are one. And from that standing point, everything of thoughts and experiences, feelings and emotions that we have that cause a friction, that cause a battle, that cause a fight, a conflict, we take responsibility for and stop. Because we're actually equal and we don't want that to contaminate the relationship. We don't want those experiences because those experiences are actually not real.
And diminishes.
They diminish us. That's actually the problem of the relationships and why they fail, is because they're not standing in equality and oneness. There's one is superior, the other is inferior. There is blame, there is guilt. There's
love and there's hate.
There's love and there is hate. That's the polarity, the inequality, the imbalance, the duality.
Yeah.
That actually causes the problem. So the main principle is that we're equal in one. And we're equal in one in how fucked we are.
Yeah.
I was trying to look for a different word, but I mean, I think that's the right term.
Yeah.
So that means we equally have to take responsibility for our issues.
Yeah.
And stop projecting, stop expecting the other to be the one that is going to save us.
Yeah.
Stop expecting the other to be the one that is going to make us feel fulfilled. Stop expecting the other to be the one that is going to love us, because you have to love yourself.
And also stop comparing yourself to the other, because each individual will walk their own life. We were born in totally different places, in totally different upbringings, and so we have to walk by ourselves, even though we're together. But then once we start comparing, and this is very important for couples, then it's two ways. Either you use that as a point of support and motivation and get that other person's strength, especially when you feel a bit more tired or less motivated. Mm-hmm. But don't think that this is a race. It is not. Everybody wins when each one is actually taking care of their own selves. Yeah. And there's going to be phases as well in the relationships. So that was something that we mentioned, is like, be gentle.
Definitely.
But what we notice is that the more you work on yourself, the better the outcome is going to be, because things start to align. It's like,
because you're aligning equally.
Yeah, with yourself.
With the same principle as well. Yes. Which is who you really are. We'll go back to another thing. But yeah.
And then also on the other point of equality, when we were talking about the polarity, I was thinking that relationships, how they tend to stand these days, they're actually bipolar. If you think, like, in one day, the people are like super lovely and caring for each other, and the other day are being so nasty. That's bipolar. And how can we accept that sort of relationships? I mean, how can we accept people mistreating each other under the same roof and disrespecting.
That goes back to the point of they're actually not taking responsibility for their experiences, and they start to project on the other the problems and the issues.
Yeah.
And then the conflicts arise and start from that.
Yeah.
Because they experience this, they experience that, they're sad, they're depressed, they're angry, they're frustrated. I mean, even subconsciously and unconsciously, they're having these experiences. They are not even aware. And then they are with the other person, and the slightest thing is a reaction, is an irritation.
Trigger.
And it is a trigger, and then they go on into a fight, and then they don't even realize how the whole thing developed.
Yeah, and so in the end, people are blaming the relationship for their experience instead of actually being grateful that the relationship is showing all of this.
Stop for a moment. Look.
Yeah.
Why am I experiencing
But the
this?
relationship is actually not to blame. Yeah. That's the thing. It's
it happens quite often. Let me just say this, that sometimes it could be either with Joana or with our son Bernard, which is a little bit older, not with Mariana because she's 2. But little things, sometimes I feel an irritation and I'm like, wait a minute. This is not them. This is not this specific moment. This is not this specific context. There's other things that I'm actually not facing in myself that I know I'm not giving the attention that they require for me to sort out. And that's why this irritation is coming, because there's no reason for this little thing to make me a little agitated in this moment.
Yeah,
yes.
Like you have your rock your waters or something, right?
Yes,
yeah?
exactly.
But it's something that you can ask yourselves. Like, if one day that little thing didn't affect me and the other day it did, it was the same scenario. So you are the only element that was different, or the experience that you were facing.
Exactly.
With parenting, it's so important to have this awareness. So we've been talking about what is wrong in the relationships, in the sense of what is misaligned, and a lot of people may feel this disconnection and wanting more of the relationship, but they get somehow stuck in these cycles and these old patterns. And what I wanted us to talk right now is how can we save currently a relationship? And the other thing that took me to this point was online. I was seeing a lot of points about how to identify that your relationship is ending. How do you know that you're going through a breakup? And I want us to look to the other side. Is like, how can we help people to save their relationship? Because maybe there are things that actually work. There's maybe a level of intimacy that it's good to honor what has been already created. But rather than looking at what is actually wrong and using that as a reason to break up, rather what can be done? Is it fixable, let's say?
So I would say that yes, you should break up, but it's not the relationship. It is the foundation of that relationship.
To recreate the foundation.
Rebuild, yes. You have to restart the relationship on different principles, with a different starting point.
Right. So Control, Alt, Delete. Let's do a reset in the relationship.
The whole thing.
Delete
everything. And obviously this will require a huge level of maturity and willingness to make this work. Yeah. Within this, you're going to have to communicate a lot. Okay? But before you start to build, like say, imagine you have a building and it's all wonky, it's going to fall, there's a problem in the structure. Okay, you put the explosives, you bring it down. But then there's all the debris. You have to clear the ground. There's the whole building came down, there's still full of stuff. Okay, that stuff is the undealt issues that they still have with each other. Okay? So the things they're still blaming, the things they're still regret, the things they're still angry about.
Yeah.
You actually have to start talk about all those aspects.
Yeah. Also the baggage from previous relationships.
If they're influencing the relationship, yes.
Which
so
definitely
that would be the first point. Is like, are you able to clear the ground? Not only knock down the relationship that was not in a solid foundation, but also clear the ground. and then restart fresh with a principled relationship, not something based on a feeling and emotion and something that you
That
won't build.
changes
It's
every
like a
day.
shanty town. You arrive there, hey, and then you put this building, you put this what you call it, this brick, that brick, and then the whole thing is crazy.
Yeah, or
It's a
just
shanty
metal.
town.
Yeah.
It's not planned properly. And then you have leakages and there's open sewage and full of problems.
And then comes like a strong wind, and it goes all
Yes.
the way down. It's like it's not stable.
Yeah.
So
So that will be the first thing, is to realize that you have to restart from the beginning. You have to communicate. You have to be willing to say and hear the difficult things. And within this, forgive yourself and each other for the things that have been giving rise to the conflict and giving rise to the relationship not working properly.
So, and self-forgiveness is for us like a basic tool.
It's a pillar.
Yeah.
That goes to heaven.
Jesus talking.
Literally.
All right. But can you just talk a little bit more about self-forgiveness and how people apply it?
Self-forgiveness is the point of you taking responsibility for yourself. Is the point of you recognizing how you're not being your best. And for that, obviously, you have to be honest with yourself. Because if you're not honest, then there's no forgiveness. Because you cannot forgive yourself if you're not honest about who you are, who you have become as in the flaws that you're living out, and who you really are, which is not that.
Yeah.
It's not those flaws. That's the lie. That is the mind. That is the guilt, the blame, the shame, the anger. That's the negativity, which is the polarity of the positive. Okay, all of that is the lies, and self-forgiveness is the tool that allows you to see how you have been limiting yourself.
Come to terms with yourself.
Yes, and come to and free yourself, because forgiveness is that. It's a release. It's a letting go. It's an unburdening of yourself, of all that baggage, all that bullshit, all the resentment, all the guilt, all the shame, all the anger, all the drama, the memories, the excuses and justifications that you keep on using as to why you have to, why you keep blaming the other, and why the other is to blame, and why you don't feel like you're enough, and so on. So forgiveness is you giving yourself back to yourself, if that made sense.
Yeah, and you give that sense of not only freedom, but your sense of peace, that you are at peace with you. And once you are, there's no reason to be in conflict with other people.
Yeah.
It's like you end that turmoil within you, because you kind of identify where you have been lacking, what are you not giving to yourself first. And it's very empowering once you see that. Once you actually start writing in a piece of paper, because writing helps you to slow down the mind. And so to actually put on paper what you're going through in your head, and you start seeing the scenarios where you put yourself into. It's like, what is the point? Why did I do this to myself? And then you, as a sense of, in this gesture of self-care,
that's
you
self-care.
let it go. You let it go. You actually acknowledge, okay, I've done this, I've been that. But that's not who I want to continue doing and being.
It's not who I really am.
And it's not who I really am. And there you forgive, you release, and you start, and you, in a way, you clear that, you clear the floor to start deciding, okay, if I'm not all of that, and I can be this, and I am this point of self-trust, I am my direction, I am fulfilled, I am enough. Therefore, my relationship, how is that going to be different?
Yeah.
And everything is going to be different. And then you can start actually writing, okay, if this element is important in my relationship, honesty, self-honesty is key, then that will be all your foundation.
Yeah.
And there you start a very transparent relationship.
Self-honesty is the foundation, and forgiveness is one of the tools that you're going to use to build yourself and the relationship.
And it's like an open floor building that you're building, because there's no need for walls in the sense of secrets or hidden agendas. And I think that's what causes a lot of friction in relationships, is when there's hidden agendas, back doors, expectations, secrets. I think I've said that already, but yeah, you never know what comes out of it, because your mind is a mess. And then you know that the other person's mind is a mess, because that's how yours is. So you don't need none of those walls. You can clear it up. It's like super nice light, light with lots of light coming in, you know, like those open floors, super nice, like Property Brothers style open floors that you are creating.
With an infinity pool. Right?
Yeah, exactly, with the water cascade and stuff. But that's what you want, because you want to see it all in clear. It's like you can see it all, because then you know, well, in a way, you know where you stand, you know where the relationship stands, and therefore you can actually have a clear direction. I mean, you don't predict the future, you don't know what's going to happen, but you have that steady platform to deal with life and to actually create from there. You have a clear mind and vision as to what you want together. And that's, you can easily, or more easily, I would say, achieve those goals, because all the distractions and all that garbage that was limiting you is no longer there.
Yeah.
And that's cool. So that's how we see that you can actually take ownership for your relationship, which is how you take ownership for your own life, because these tools that we are using, you can apply these in any other relationships in your lives, at work, relationship with colleagues, with family members.
That's the point of self-forgiveness.
Yeah.
And you are in the world relating with everything according to yourself, right? Yeah. So the point is you correct yourself, and therefore that is going to reflect in every relation that you form, in everything that you do, because the starting point is self, always.
Yeah. And there's this expression that I tend to use in my day-to-day living, is like, whenever something is upsetting me and I tend to react, it's like, I think, back to self. Okay, why is this causing me friction? Back to self. Why is this irritating me? Why am I reacting to this right now? Always back to self. And
that's you taking responsibility and being honest with yourself. That's
and again, you bring and then actually this concept that we're using, which is kind of associating a relationship to a house that you're building, is actually your own temple, which is yourself, your body, mind, and spirit. And so it's I haven't thought of this. Right now we're talking, and it's like, that you are.
So it's the temple of honesty and truth and forgiveness and giving as you'd like to receive.
And that's how actually you as life manifests in the relationship inclusive.
Yeah.
So I think those are the points about restarting a relationship. And obviously, I would say that it will be easier to start these steps with someone that you already have a close relationship with, because there's that level of intimacy, and there was those initial months of getting to know one another that is already done. So you might as well use that as an opportunity. Maybe not all relationships will work out this way, but I think it will be interesting to think of the relationship as that potential and see and try it out, test for a few months. If this works, and if not, then okay, I tried it and it didn't work, then there's nothing left. There's no, you can't fix it.
Yeah.
But try first,
yes,
I would say.
Because it takes two to tango.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes you're not a very good dancer anyway, so you need to practice by yourself a little bit longer.
And sometimes you need other people's help. And there's no shame in it. Like here in the culture where we live, in Portugal, When you talk about couples therapy, people think you're nuts or that you're crazy or you have psychological problems, which everybody has. But then you think that you're actually insane and therefore you need therapy. And it's so badly seen when in fact most couples would probably benefit from having couple therapy because it's the way that you are gonna start looking at your own self. That's what therapy is about.
Although what I would add in that respect is that don't go into therapy expecting the therapist to fix you, because the point of going to therapy is to being open to receive help. That's the point. And you have to actually listen to the advice and apply the advice. Right? There's no other way. You cannot.
Yeah.
The therapist cannot do anything unless you apply the advice, and hopefully it should be good advice.
And you can't buy change.
Yes.
Or quick fixes either.
Yes.
I think that's an important, and it will take time as well.
Yes.
So be patient in that process. So we've been talking about that process of regaining the relationship, restarting, taking ownership for yourself and the relationship. And one point that I think people may be thinking and experiencing is the point of trust. Because how can they trust now that the relationship will work? And maybe there were situations that there were trust issues already, and that was also a reason for having this relationship starting a little bit shaking.
Yeah.
So trust is actually another foundation, but here it's not like this typical trust of like fearing the other one is cheating, which is very what people tend to think of. It's
to me, it goes back again to the point, as I see it, of self-trust and trust in the principles, and it has to be visible from the other side that there is actually a dedication to the same principles. Right? So our example is simple, is we're taking responsibility for ourselves, we write, we apply self-forgiveness, we do it from the starting point of self-honesty. I do this, I do that. And that is a trust. The foundation is there of trust, is that we see that we're actually living the principle, that we're actually applying this. And therefore, I trust you and you trust me. But it's not even I trust you and you trust me. It's more I trust the principles, I trust the tools.
And you are that living.
And we're living it. And therefore, there's no reason to be fearing. Or doubt there's going to be some problem, that there's going to be betrayal or something like that, because that's, commonly speaking, that's the fear. Right? Can I trust them?
And because it comes in the actions as well.
Yes.
Because I think a situation that causes distrust is when a person says something but then acts in a different way. Like you say that you want to be with that person, but then you make no effort to be with that person. So that is like there's a
disconnect.
Yeah, it's disconnected from what you hear,
what you say, and what you live,
what you see, and what you say and what you live. So again, it's a point of where you have to first sort out your own thing. You fix
the trust is visible. I think that's the point. It's not like a blind, I'll trust you. No, it's like, do you know that game where you do like this and you fall back and the other person grabs? Like, that's kind of a blind trust. But here is more like we're falling forward and we're looking at each other and we know, and I know you're there.
Yeah.
Right? Because I see it. It's right there. So therefore, there's that. It's not blind trust. It's real trust. It's visible trust.
And it's applied trust, I guess.
Yes.
And you have, like, every single day is an opportunity for you to manifest and live out what you are setting yourself to. Like, if you decide to be a trustworthy person, then you will act accordingly. If you decide to trust yourself first, then you will also, and then you also, if you have an agreement with that person and you know where you're standing, there should be no reason to distrust the other person. But the problem arises is when the action of the other person does not correspond.
Yeah.
And here again, it's a point of communicating. Like, what is actually causing a level of distrust in another? Why is that upsetting another person? Is it because in a previous relationship that person was behaving this way, and then you kind of do that math in your head, like, if this person is now acting this way, it will lead to the scenario of my previous breakup or something. So it's very important. Again, don't bring those holograms into your present life, because otherwise you're recreating those old patterns again.
Another interesting point about the word itself, trustworthy. It also sounds like trustworthy. Trustworthy. You trust the words that you speak and that you write, and you live them, where there is no disconnect between what you say and what you're thinking in your mind, which is hidden from the other, which is hidden from everyone else, where you present something here and you say things to present a certain to present yourself in a certain way, to be a certain person, but in your mind there's different plans, there's schemes, there's secrets, there's desires for other things, and so on. So that means that's where there's no trustworthiness, because there is no equality between what is here and what you say and what you live. That's what you want to get to, is what is here must be equal to what you say and to what you live.
And those were perfect examples. Like everything, all the things that you were just describing, you would put those in paper and you would forgive yourself for those.
Yes.
That's where that was an example. Like if you have suddenly a desire for something else, for what you have, forgive yourself, let it go, because that's not the decision you're having. So you're in conflict unless you decide, okay, no, this is not what I want something else. But then again, be clear.
Yeah, be honest with yourself.
Be honest with yourself and the other, and identify if that's actually what's in your mind. If it's actually true.
I would say people actually don't understand the issue, in fact. Because if you are with somebody and in your mind, you're imagining other things, you're imagining a plan B, and you even have a person in mind, and you're even imagining how it is sexually and whatever, you're playing these games in your mind, you're really fucking with yourself. And you're going to brainwash yourself into sabotaging the relationship, so that then you can go and live out that desire and that imagination that you projected in your own mind. So it's not, it's about also like stopping this bullshit is the point of recognizing that if you entertain this,
you will manifest.
You are very likely to manifest it, or if you don't manifest it, that will feed conflicts with the other.
It will bring consequence.
Yes. So just stop. Stop.
Yeah. And here it's that also, and you don't have to, I don't know, there's going to be things that you will deal with your own head, and the other person does not necessarily need to. Just have your own notebook.
It's self-responsibility.
Yes, and those things are actually not real.
Yeah.
So each other, you don't have to worry about whatever the other one is writing. I don't have to read his notebooks. He doesn't have to read mine.
They're all over the place. All the secrets.
It's just the bullshit that it's in there. We're just deconstructing the mind and not taking it personally. I think that's the important bit. It's like, don't take it personally, because you're most likely don't even know why you had that thought in the first place. How in your mind, your subconscious, your unconscious led you to think that figure was the perfect for you and not the current relationship you're in.
Yeah.
So we have to stop that. We have to stop the mind from controlling who we are and let more like, okay, let's breathe in.
Just live in reality.
In reality.
Not in a made up reality in your mind.
And start building that really nice house of yours.
Yes. Yes, your palace. Your kingdom.
All right. So we actually have a question on this topic. And so on trust issues. I've started checking my boyfriend's phone without his permission because he has been acting differently. I don't like to do it, but I fear the worst because I have been cheated on before. What should I do? I feel like I'm starting to develop trust issues. This is a good example.
Yeah. So first of all, there should be no fear and no resistance to speak about anything. Like, you have to be able to face it. Like, the last thing you want to do is to pretend it's not happening and try to, like, oh no, I just don't want to hear the bad news. Then once you step beyond that fear and resistance, and I would say you actually have to communicate. Right? You don't. The reason why you do not like checking your boyfriend's phone is because you're doing something in secret, which is what you think he's also doing, something in secret. So in a way, you're both being dishonest, possibly.
Yeah.
But the point is, you don't actually know. You're projecting.
Yeah, you're imagining.
You're imagining. You're using your mind. You're using your imagination, and that is already causing you some anxiety.
Yeah.
And which is unnecessary. Yes.
Yeah.
So the point would be to talk. And maybe you'll find the way he's acting differently could be something at work.
Yeah.
Could be maybe, I don't know. It could be many reasons, but you have to actually open up with the person and communicate about it. Talk about it. What is it?
And you have to break the cycle, and you have to come clean first. What I mean by that is, if you have been through trust issues before, a similar scenario, first, why not look into those points? What did you feel? How did you feel in that previous relationship? What are those emotions, those feelings that suddenly are coming again for you to see, to identify, to solve within you, so that you stop projecting that into your current relationship? So you do that homework first.
Yeah.
And you recognize, okay, I've been through this. I felt this way. I felt that I was used. I didn't feel good enough. I was comparing myself with other women. I was not feeling worthy of this man. I felt inferior. So all of that.
And the fears.
And the fear of being let go.
Yes, of another breakup, of being betrayed.
So you identify those points. And then I think only after you do that, then you can come into a conversation with your partner.
This is what I want to say, is that it's really important you sort that stuff out first.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the conversation you're gonna come from
a victim.
A victim. It's a starting point of already projecting the worst. Yeah. And not being clear within yourself. You're already contaminated by your own mind and fears and doubts and memories and what happened in the past. So you don't want to involve that in the communication that you have with your partner.
Yeah. And so obviously you will mention that you have checked his phone, but again, it's a point of you bringing that transparency to the table, and also explaining to the other person why this in fact affected you so much, because you bring a bit of context, so the other person suddenly doesn't feel that he's being accused wrongly, because you actually, there's a reason. And this part of that communication is that openness, is that you want to create that space where you can explain why you're feeling this way, what has led you to in this moment have those fears affecting you. And obviously hopefully the other person will have that maturity to deal with it and not suddenly go into this fight or flight mode that it could happen. You never know how the other person is going to react.
You don't know the reason yet, so it could be that. But at least you're more prepared for it.
And you're dealing with this for your own self. Yes. It's not dependent, regardless of what the other person will say. Yeah. You are already walking this process yourself. And we don't know what's going to be the answer or the outcome of that relationship, but you are applying this ways of
I think it's
dealing with yourself, because if you don't face that now, most likely you'll face this in the future or with another relationship, because it's something within you that is bringing that self distrust.
Yes, I think it's important to mention that it doesn't matter in the end, meaning it doesn't matter if he was cheating or not, because whether he was cheating or not, you can handle it. Like, don't go into that fear. Like, it doesn't matter. I mean, if he was cheating, I mean, find out quickly and face it quickly, right? If he wasn't, good as well.
Well, it matters in the sense of the outcome of the relationship.
But it doesn't matter in terms of who you are.
Yeah, I get it.
This is what I'm saying. And you can, the point is, you can actually come out stronger on the other side. And if he's cheating, I mean, you don't want to be with the cheater. So, I mean, come on.
Why continue perpetuating that?
Yes. So it's something that you can definitely handle. And back to on the point of checking the phone and making it as if it's something invading the privacy. Like, at least between us, like, the phone is completely open.
Yeah.
It has never been an issue in any way. Because we're together. I think that's the point.
Because there's nothing to hide.
There's nothing to hide.
Yeah.
So when it comes to that, which is very common, it seems, to a lot of people, of, no, you don't check on my phone, it's my privacy. Like, is it my privacy, or is the correct word is my secrets? You see?
And here with the secrets, I would say the problem with secrets is not what you keep away from other people, is what you keep away from your own self.
Yeah, well, you want to try to hide from yourself.
Yeah.
Maybe you're trying to hide the fact that you actually have a plan B and you're chatting with the other girl,
or maybe you're
whatever,
unsatisfied,
and you don't want the other person to see it, because then you're going to be found out and your life is going to be out of the house, and you're going to go back to your parents' house, and you don't want that, so you want to keep it a secret. Don't check my phone, it's my privacy.
But again, it goes back to,
it's all bullshit, all that stuff.
Who are you? It's like, who are you with yourself first?
And goes back to the principle of the relationship as well. Like, if you cannot check each other's phone, like, what the fuck?
Yeah, what?
Imagine what's here. You just see what I mean?
And that's again, it's a necessary stress that you're bringing into the relationship, a necessary suffering if you are indeed feeding your mind and acting accordingly.
Yeah.
And what's the point? In the end of the day, relationships, again, should not be to entertain the mind and the stress and these conflicts, but to actually be a point of self-development and growth and nurture the potential. Because once we have that stable house foundation, then everything you do is going to be also an outcome of that.
Yes.
If you are a mess, then what you do is going to be messy.
Yes.
And then we see the world around us.
I'm going to quote that. If you're a mess, what you're going to do is going to be messy.
So yeah, so use relationships as that point of self-awareness, and for us to create actually a peaceful world, we need to start with peaceful relationship with us,
piecing yourself back together,
and put those pieces together. And the relationship is a mirror of that.
That's it. I hope that answered the dilemma for this person. And many others that probably can relate to it. All right, I think that's it then. That was a long one. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.